It's impossible to put into words how much of an impact Joe had on me or on McAfee Taft. It was a really eye-opening experience for me to work with somebody that had his approach. Though he was far more experienced and far greater of a lawyer than I am, he always treated me as his equal and always showed me an immense amount of respect. And because of that, we connected really quickly. And not only from a professional standpoint, but we became over time really great friends. And I am a better lawyer and a better man, and frankly, a better father and a husband because of my relationship with Joe. I can't say that I came up with this phrase, but I've heard a few people say it, and I think it is a great way of describing Joe, and that is Joe represented the best in all of us. He was the nicest guy on the planet, so brilliant. He was a mountain of a lawyer. I say that because it was the expanse of what he did and how much he did was endless and beautiful at the same time. He always worked on the coolest and the hardest and most complicated projects that you'd see in the headlines. It was an absolute privilege and honor for me to have been able to work with him and learn from him in so many ways. Though he's not with us anymore, I hope that I strive to be like him and carry on his legacy and the way he worked with others and the impact and the compassion and integrity and ethics that Joe always had. I hope to, exhibit that in my own practice in my day-to-day life, and that's, how I plan to try to honor Joe.
Joe Lewallen was an exceptional partner at McAfee Taft. In my case, he was perhaps a more extraordinary friend. Joe and I have both been members of All Souls Church in Oklahoma City for over 25 years, and my wife and I have watched Joe and Jamie grow into very important lay leaders in our parish. I guess the other thing about Joe is his incredible and highly, frankly, unusual devotion to his family. And that was kind of part of Joe. I mean, he worked hard, but he always turned to his family and was very proud of them. He always had time, and he always returned your calls. Nobody was more important than you were. I mean, if you had a conversation with Joe, it wasn't about Joe, it was about you. And that's an incredible characteristic. He wanted to know what you were doing. How's your family doing? What's going on in your life? And we could all learn from that.
So I've worked for Joe for almost 14 years. I'm actually only a second secretary, and I know why his last secretary stayed until she retired, because he really is just a great person to work for. He sets a tone from the top, so then everybody below him and around him lives up to that same standard of thoughtfulness and appreciative and kindness. And so it's kind of helped develop this amazing group of lawyers that I work with personally that I love. And I attribute all of that to him starting kind of setting this tone. Our job is important, and, I take my job seriously, but the priority in life isn't your job. The priority in life is your family. And for him, his priority has always been his wife and his children, always, and his grandchildren. Oh my word, seeing him turn into a grandfather was the coolest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen his face light up so much when he talks about Pearl and Graham. I mean, it was just the best. Joe is just kind of an irreplaceable force that will always be there. So I'm very thankful for him.
What a brilliant lawyer he was. Again, he was always self-deprecating and would, kind of downplay his role in whatever we were doing or, the project. But it was always, very important, the contributions he made. And I worked with him on several projects over the years, but most recently and most closely for me was the project for the new Thunder Arena. He and I have been working kind of shoulder to shoulder on that, and I got to see his brilliance in action. Nobody, at least in Oklahoma City, has negotiated agreements for a nearly $1 billion NBA facility. So to some extent, we're all kind of, plowing new ground, but it never seemed like Joe was. He would identify issues and, he'd give me a call or come by and say, Josh, I was thinking about X, Y, or Z, and, it was something I hadn't even thought of as being an issue. And by the time I could even start to worry about it, he'd say, but, I think we could do, I saw something similar in a deal 5-10 years ago. It doesn't exactly fit this, but we could tweak it a bit and this would solve it. And, the next time we met with our client or the city, he'd present it and problem was solved before anybody other than Joe knew there was a problem. I loved working with Joe. I loved talking to Joe about his family and firm governance and everything else that we had in common. And we're going to miss him for a lot of reasons. And wish he was still here.
I had the privilege of working with Joe for the first 4 years of my career, which is just the biggest honor and blessing you can really ask for. I remember being really intimidated by Joe when I first started here at McAfee, and not because of anything he had done. He wasn't scary or unapproachable or anything like that, but just because he was sort of the epitome of everything I aspire to be as an attorney. He was well liked and respected, and just kind of this titan of industry for the real estate community in Oklahoma City. He had touched every building in some form or fashion, and I remember being really nervous about that, and I didn't want to let him down. And it's funny thinking about that now, because Joe would have absolutely hated that I felt that way. He was so incredibly humble, and he took every opportunity to give someone else credit for something he had done, or to give praise even for the smallest of things. And I think that he had this uncanny ability to just make everyone feel comfortable, and that's pretty much how I felt with him from day one. His sense of humor and just his warmth, he made everybody better around him. And we're all so lucky and so thankful for the time that we had with Joe. And we're really going to miss him around here.
When I think of Joe, what I think about is his humanity, just how he was just a good human being, just a good person. The way he thought about firm issues and people and difficult issues was always very kind. The way he talked about people was very kind. There aren't many people like that every time that I'm with them, I feel good about being around them, and I feel like that is who I want to be like when I grow up. But Joe was one of those people. So just a good, nice person. I think it's easy to talk about how an amazing lawyer he was, but what comes to my mind is just what a good person he was. Just a nice person.
Joe had this rare combination of intelligence and judgment and compassion. And he was just really enjoyable to work with. Even when the deals weren't going so well, everything was really positive and encouraging. And it was also just really neat to watch him and how he worked with that young group of lawyers in his real estate practice group. The degree of teamwork that they had, but also I think the degree of respect that he showed to them. When you work with Joe on a project, he involved the younger lawyers as if they were true integral parts, which they are, but not all partners treat our younger lawyers that way, and Joe always did. And so he was great to work with. He's just a great human, and we will sorely miss him.
Joe had the incredible ability to put everyone and everything first. He put his legal career first. He was not only one of the most recognized and best real estate lawyers in the entire state, he was also a leader in each of the firms that he was a member of. And the leadership of firms is chosen by the other lawyers in the firm. And I know from my own experience, we had faith that Joe would do right by the other lawyers in the firm. Joe put his community first. He served on numerous boards, including Heritage Hall, the Oklahoma Children's Foundation, and again, he didn't just serve, he took an active role and was a leader on those boards and in those, with those groups. He put his faith first. Not only was he a leader and a member of All Souls Episcopal Church, but he walked like a Christian man should walk. He put his friends first, and I am so grateful that I counted Joe as a friend. But most importantly, he put his family first. Jamie, Tripp, Baxter, Ben, their wives, Kara and Christina, Addie, of course. Addie and I have something in common. We both like ramen. He loved his grandchildren. And I was looking forward to, as a new grandfather, spending time together with him and his grandkids and my grandkids. And you say to Henry, that doesn't add up. You can't put all those things first. You can't put your heart and soul into everything. I know. Most people can't. Maybe no one else can, but Joe did, and I watched him do it. Joe was simply amazing. Simply amazing.
Joe and I go way back. He was a couple years ahead of me in law school, but I got to know him when I got out practice. Our paths crossed several times. He was president of his firm. My wife worked there for years. And then, I came to McAfee and he came a few years after me. We served on the board together and became even better friends. He was part of the group that would go up to Minnesota at Martin's Lake House, and we just had a great time, great memories. Joe was an excellent attorney. I never heard anyone say a bad thing about him. He was always professional, kind, always had a smile on his face. He'll be truly missed. It's a great friend, great partner, and rest in peace and God bless you.
I'm here with a heavy heart that is filled with sorrow, but it's brimming with wonderful memories. Memories of a man who was not only our law partner, but also a great friend. He was a man of deep faith. He was a man of integrity and professionalism. And he was also a man with humility. Joe Lewallen was never one to seek grand attention. As a lawyer, Joe had a lot of intangibles that other lawyers didn't really have. That made him a spectacular lawyer, especially with the combination of all these things that came together in a single guy. He had good judgment. He was curious and he was creative. He was unceasingly polite. He was intuitive. He was always thorough, and he was a polished guy. Clients especially liked that about him because he could step into negotiations and work with anyone that was there. He brought people together and he tried to find solutions. He tried to find middle ground where people could come together to make decisions and accomplish what they were trying to do and achieve their goals. Jamie, we offer our most heartfelt condolences to you and your family. There's no single action, no grand program, and no miracle moment that defined Joe. He made a distinctive impact on our firm and on our clients over a long period of time. We're grateful for his friendship, for his leadership, and for his commitment. Greatness, as Joe taught us, isn't really a function of circumstance. Greatness, as it turns out, is largely a matter of conscious choice and discipline.
Joe Lewallen was unique in that he never said no. He always had a smile on his face. He cared about his partners, he cared about his friends, he cared about his clients. Joe was always there for us. It was like Joe had been with the firm since the beginning. He had this unique ability to manage this incredible workload, giving incredible attention to his clients, as well as the firm and his partners and all the staff. Joe was loved by everyone. You never left sitting down with Joe without a smile on your face. He cared about his family above all things, and he was able to manage that with a tireless work ethic. Losing Joe was an incredible blow to this law firm. He'll be missed as a friend and as a mentor, as well as the fact that he was one of the most preeminent real estate lawyers in the city. Everybody knew Joe. Everybody loved Joe. And we're just going to miss him greatly.